I didn't hear the normal little recording started. Did you guys?
I did.
You
I
did.
did, yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
It hides it from me for some reason. I don't know why that is. Well, welcome to week 3. It's great to see everybody. I'm thrilled that you all are back joining us. We have an incredible speaker for you today, Jill Nelson, which you're going to just love, love, love hearing her experience working with customer personas and how she built and sold her business. Jill, you've spoken for us, I think, at a couple other accelerators, and you're always one of our highly rated speakers. So we're really thrilled that you carve out time for us and that you're back in.
My pleasure.
So Devon is feeling a little under the weather today. That's why you're not seeing him. So we'll all send out a nice little healing vibe his way, hoping he's feeling better soon. But thank you again for joining. So today what we're going to do is I'm going to jump in and share my screen. And actually, let's see. Since usually there's another co-host. Oh, Jonathan, you're also a co-host. Can you monitor while I'm doing my quick little intro to let folks in? Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay. So let's hop on in and kick off week 3, customer personas. Okay. So I just wanted to do a quick kind of recap. I heard amazing things about the session with Kiana earlier this week, the mentor session. Did anyone want to just come off mute and kind of give an overview of how you thought that went? I think there was about almost 60 people on that. Anyone want to give sort of what you learned, kind of quick?
I don't mind sharing. You know, my customers in my business are universities, and I asked Kiana about her experience with selling to tough customers and obtaining first customers, and even from the investor perspective, the objection about long sales cycle. And Kiana's like, look, I was in ed tech for over a decade, and I've sold to school districts before, and I know that you could have a 6-month, a 12-month sales cycle. She said, a long sales cycle doesn't scare me, especially if you are converting at 50%. A long sales cycle is scary if you're not converting. So you need to make sure that you really understand your customers and your business and have a really tight process to endure that cycle. And just some of the language that she was speaking with was really pointed, and it elicited some other questions from other people in the mentor session as well, which was good. And then I learned also that there are several of us who have university customers or tough customers,
Mm.
and there's been some side conversations after that where we made some additional connections and are able to support each other a little bit better. And Kiana helped to facilitate that and potentially give us some feedback that could help us unlock what we're all working on. So that was my
Awesome.
experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you taking time to reflect on that. And others can put reflections in the chat if you want as well. I know she ended up having a little over 20 people book one-on-ones with her, which was extremely generous of her to offer that. That was not a requirement. So glad that some of you are getting to take that opportunity. Okay, so today when we go into breakouts, hopefully everybody now remembers their number and who their cohort facilitator is. We're doing it a little differently this time. Instead of pre-assigning you into your breakout, you're just going to see a list of 1 to 10 with the first name of your cohort facilitator after that. So just pick the number and the person. And if you do forget or something, just sort of send me a message and I'll look that up so we can get you in the right room at the right time. And we'll talk more about the breakout rooms in a minute. I also just wanted to take a moment and thank all of the cohort facilitators. Honestly, we couldn't do this without all of you, and you all bring such an amazing background in industry and lived experiences. And so thank you for saying yes and for being here today. You guys have heard us say many times that the EDA is funding this as part of a $1.5 million program, which we're really honored to have. And then, of course, the amazing Lindy with Rational Unicorn is our silver sponsor today. I'm going to hand it over to Lindy. She's got some fun tips to share with you. So Lindy, take it away.
Hi, Carolyn. Thanks. Good morning, everyone.
I'm just like so thrilled to be here. I get a lot of energy from being with folks who are using the tools of capitalism as a force for positive social change. And I think that, we're seeing a lot of energy around this idea of entrepreneurship as a way of making the world a better place, of looking at it and seeing what's missing and being the brave person that says, hey, I can change that, or I have a solution to that problem. Like you, I wear a lot of hats. I'm a mom, I'm a business owner, I'm a co-founder in some other businesses. And when you're wearing your founder hat, I think the number one thing that we have to think about is really protecting the business opportunity. That is the number one thing that we have to do as founders and business owners is we have to draw a high fence around that opportunity and protect it. Because without your good ideas, without your intellectual property, there is no opportunity. So one of the things that we think about as lawyers when we're protecting the opportunity is intellectual property protections like patents, trademarks, copyrights, and we can certainly talk about those things, but fundamentally, the number one thing you can do to protect your opportunity and your IP is you can have a really good confidentiality agreement. Carolyn, can you go to the next slide? So knowing that y'all are resourceful and scrappy, and knowing that y'all are probably going to go to ChatGPT and ask them to write you an NDA, I thought, you know what, we're going to give you a really good mutual NDA. So go ahead and snap the screen, take a screenshot, do what you need to do. This is editable for you. You can just download it. And then go ahead. I'll give you 5 more seconds to do that. Okay, we went ahead. Okay, so my team knows me and they're like, Lindy, nobody likes a long-winded lawyer. So don't try to tell them everything about the NDA in one go. You only have 3 minutes. So on the next page, we actually have a blog post where I've put all of my extra thoughts, including, hey, what's better, a mutual NDA or a one-way NDA? How can we make sure that this is really tight? What sort of things do I need to look for? So what I would recommend to you is that you download that NDA and then read the blog in tandem to help you think critically about your particular situation. Because again, in this world, there's no one size fits all for everything. So you really have to think about your particular circumstances and what really is going to work best for you. But that's all. Like I said, nobody likes a long-winded lawyer, so I'm going to wrap it up and reach out to us if we can be helpful. Thanks, Carolyn.
Awesome. Thank you, Lindy, and thank you, Rational Unicorn. And it couldn't have been timed more perfectly. Andre was asking the question about would you recommend a mutual NDA versus a one-way at the same exact time that you were talking about that for your blog post. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so I want to remind everybody that the homework and this resource drive is meant for you. We already have Jill's homework in week 3. So please make sure that you're utilizing that. Also, I know many of you have submitted your homework to your cohort facilitators, but not everybody. So just remember, you have to turn in at least, I think, is it half of those? I have to remember it's on the last slide now, but make sure that you're meeting that requirement so that we can get you referred over to Portland Seed Fund for those who are fund ready. This is our schedule at a glance again. We're excited to be at week 3 that we've talked about already, and that we have Jill with us today. So here's what I'm going to do. Stop my screen share because I have a little bio to read on Jill and want you to know how lucky we are to have her here and joining us today. So Jill, I'm going to just sort of read through this. Hopefully I've got this right. Chime in if I'm missing anything. But Jill Nelson founded Ruby Receptionist, ruby.com in 2003. She grew it to over 630 employees and 9,000 small business customers across the country before retiring in 2019. Retiring, I don't know about that, Jill. Under Jill's tenure as CEO, Ruby held the record-breaking position as Oregon's fastest growing companies for 13 consecutive years and was repeatedly named a top 5 place to work in the US by Fortune magazine. Jill was a Pacific Northwest 2017 Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, rightly deserved, and was named the 2017 Oregon Tech Executive of the Year, the first woman to receive this recognition in its 31-year history. I think we should pause and just applaud that. Thanks for busting through on that, Jill. She's a sought after speaker. She shared her entrepreneurial journey, her culture driven management philosophies with global brands all over the world, for example, like Mercedes Benz. She's passionate about helping others on their entrepreneurial journey. And as an active angel investor and advisor, she's currently engaged in a number of real estate and business development projects to help revitalize the community of Reedsport, Oregon, which I'm sure she will tell you a little bit about. She sits on the board of trustees of the Legacy Health Foundation, and she's an operating advisor for Updata Partners. She holds a Bachelor's of Science in Accounting from the U of O. So, whew, that's amazing, Jill. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for
Well,
sharing all of that.
hand it over to you, and I will monitor the chat. So if people have questions, I might just sort of interject a little bit, but you have until about the top of the hour, 10 a.m., and then we'll move people into the breakout. So thanks for being here, Jill.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me, and good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here. It's a real pleasure to be back amongst startup entrepreneurs that really, hold a piece in my heart there. And yes, today I find myself in Reedsport, Oregon, humbled by the prospect of opening a small cafe. So it's been a real full circle, and learning some hard lessons all over again. But that's a story for another day. But today I'm really excited to share with you some of my journey at Ruby. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've even been, in the Portland area. So I thought I'd take a little bit of our time and just talk to you a little bit about how I got where I got, and what prompted me on this journey of customer discovery. But long ago, back in 2002, I had aspirations to be an entrepreneur. Ultimately grew Ruby into a company that handled tens of thousands of phone calls every single day, and used a really sophisticated house developed platform that enabled all of us here in Portland, Oregon, to really be integrated into thousands and thousands of small business customers across the United States, and sound just like we were in their office, being able to handle telephone calls and even chat interactions with answers and transferring to the appropriate party, scheduling appointments, basically anything you would ever hope from a really great receptionist to be able to help your customers be taken care of and help your business succeed while you were out doing what you needed to do. But long ago, before it was a sophisticated platform, it was a little tiny studio in the Pearl District back in 2003. If you guys can see the photo there, that little crazy box on the back of the wall was our very old-fashioned traditional phone system. And I started Ruby because I actually wanted to launch what is now commonly known as co-working space. It was a little bit different back then. It was much more, it was shared offices, but it was still private offices, and usually there was an actual receptionist that was included with your service, and a traditional land telephone line, and you receive services such as copying and perhaps even some typing, and but most importantly, the receptionist piece. But I had no money. I had nobody that was willing to invest in me. And so what I did was took that piece of the business that I could invest on my own, which was the phone piece, and figured out a way, well, if I couldn't have the office space, how could I still help these small businesses succeed with the telephone piece, even if they weren't sitting right next door? And so that's what Ruby was. And it was a far cry from the tech-enabled service company it became, but we were really small and we had almost no customers. So it wasn't hard to use our memories and just, I guess just wanting to be able to be helpful, to be able to answer calls and get them where they need to go. But over time, we grew and we advertised what we could do, and ultimately we became what we were, and we developed our own in-house platform that took millions and millions of dollars investment, of course. It actually took so much longer, as you might imagine, than anyone ever thought it could possibly take to develop these platforms that ended up delivering our, what was eventually our full product offering. But along the way, it became very, very, very important to stop thinking about our customers as just simply any business that might use our service, and really understand who they are. And so that's what became sort of an obsession about understanding our customers. I
Jill,
know,
Jill,
yes,
quick question as you
Yeah.
go, and if you want to answer it at a certain point in your
sure.
presentation. How did you get those first 10 customers?
Oh, it's a good, good question. So the very first 10 customers, and I will tell you, they came very slowly. And was in that office, and that little PBX phone system you saw on the back of the wall that actually cost tens and tens of thousands of dollars. I borrowed my life away. And it was day 20 of our first month after hiring 4 full-time employees that we got our very first customer. And it came from a website, and it came out of New York City. Our first customer was in New York City. I thought we would be a Portland company, but our website got up, and I was late night looking at how to advertise, and I came across this thing called Google AdWords and didn't know what it was. At the time, it was so new that a click was a mere 10 cents. And so I put some money into Google AdWords, and lo and behold, got a few calls. And being from the East Coast, we switched our hours to open at 5 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. And so those first customers came totally from Google advertising and a small round of direct mail. But thankfully, and again, because we really understood our customer and really were able to meet a big need for small business customers, which we'll get into in a minute. For the longest time, the overwhelming majority of our customers came through customer referral, because we were a subscription business, and I hated selling. I always hated selling. So what I wanted to do was make a product, make a service that our customers really needed, not just liked, but actually had, significant value from, and make sure that they were so happy that they never left us and that they told others about us. So for the longest time, it was really about referral. And, we did have the luxury of, which we'll get into, I guess, on this next slide, of not having to fully understand our customer the way, depending on what your business is and who it serves and how big the market segment is, and how you go about getting customers. You might be able to start broad at like we did and get more granular as you go. Because for us, our market, and I know, Carolyn, I think you're covering TM and SAM in another presentation, so I won't go too far into this, but I'm sure many of you, and perhaps last week's presentation as well, have done an exercise on quantifying your market. What is the market? How big can it be? And again, for the longest time, I was like, there's 30 million small businesses in the US. That's huge. If we could just have one percentage of those customers, we would be, billion-dollar company. But as we learn and we started to look into quantifying those small business market, understanding who our customers really were, really only small businesses that would do at least a minimum of $50,000 of revenue were legitimate candidates for our service. We are a real receptionist, so we are much more expensive than voicemail. Certainly less than a full-time receptionist by a long shot, but still, in the hundreds of dollars per month, not the tens of dollars per month. So that wiped out all but about, I think 3 million of those 28 million potential customers of ours. And then there are certain industries for us that just did not make sense. And I see a hand, and I'm happy to take questions as we go or hold them to the end. Giovanni, would you like?
Yeah, that's a good insight about, what your target audience, I guess, income level should be, or your the other businesses in your case. How long did that take for you to realize? And where did that data come from? From just them supplying it to you?
Yeah, I think not till later. The way that it was really more because we started out with such a vast market and we were getting customers organically. It was a once it became time to like, okay, the organic, now that we're bigger and we have our small monthly churn, but even that, you know, you need to feed the beast and keep it going. And now we need to go get more customers. And it wasn't really until we started both the discovery on the marketing side as well as the product development that we started to ask the question, but it wasn't who can't be our customer, but of the customers that we have, what are their commonalities? And we learned that our small business customers were actually not startup customers. Most of them had been in business a good 6 to 10 years. So the journey for us, again, we had the luxury of having a huge TAM, a huge target market, and whittled that down as we got more granular and spent more significantly on our product development and our marketing. But you absolutely can do a survey. I think there's a little bit of intuition knowing that if we charge a few $100s a month for our service and a business had less than a few $100,000 of revenue, chances are they were just going to be answering their phone themselves or not having a phone or using voicemail because it's really, you know, what was available to them at that time. So for us too, and we'll get a little more into that, there were some unit economics that made sense for certain industries to be our perfect customer and others be a somewhat decent customer, but still not our target. And others just some segments we thought would be a good customer, just it absolutely did not work, which we'll get more into that. But for
And we'll,
us, yes.
sorry to interrupt, Jill, and I definitely want to have time for questions, but everyone, please put your questions in the chat. So Jill, you can get
okay.
through, so that way, Jill, you can get through your slides.
Oh, okay, excellent. All right. I will I'll keep sliding and I'm not the best multitasker, so my chat is not up at the moment.
I've got, it's all right. We're going to hold the questions till the end so you can get through.
Okay, excellent. All right. All right. So so for us, we did this exercise, whittled it down, and still our total market opportunity was $16.8 billion of a total addressable market if every last qualified business used Ruby. So that is something that really worked in our favor. And certainly if I was starting a business all over again, I would really use that as a big consideration, that the market is much vaster than we could ever imagine needing to tackle. So, you know, takeaway number one, and I'm sure you'll be getting into this if you haven't already, is really understanding how large your market is and the realistic, you know, the SAM part of that equation as well, the service addressable market. Okay. So that's insight number one. All right, moving on. This next point, and I've thought a lot about how I've written this, that your product and service drives who your customers are and not the other way around. I think ultimately the reverse becomes more true than this, but for Ruby and the way that we launched our product, which was a live virtual receptionist service, it resonated with many and it didn't with others, and we'll get into the reasons why next. So for Ruby, we were a receptionist. I don't even know if this sounds outdated in the age of AI and people not necessarily picking up the telephone, although here now I'm in Reedsport, that's what everybody still does is they pick up the telephone and just call you, which is kind of nice. We were the face of our customers. So it wasn't about just handling phone calls. If all you needed a phone to be answered, there were other alternatives that were less expensive, like a traditional answering service or an automated service as well. But what we were selling is great first impressions. So if your business counted on delivering a great first impression, we were a good fit for you. We also provided flexibility because we were virtual and we had technology that allowed us to transfer calls, screen them, and keep in touch with your technology to know whether or not you were available to take calls. We allowed flexibility. So for certain industries like people on the go and real estate and the construction industries, that was really lovely for them. And the Ruby has your back piece. It's that peace of mind. If every phone call is a potential customer, and if you were on servicing a client or you're out on a job, knowing that we're there for you to answer potential customer calls or taking care of perhaps a frustrated caller who hasn't received word back from you, we had your back. We were essentially a member of your team, helping you feel like you weren't alone. And at the end of the day, we did it for a few $100s, not a few $1,000s, saving businesses money from a full-time receptionist without sacrificing quality. So those were really at the core, were our key benefits. And just answering the phone, sometimes we would get businesses that would want to use this, that these didn't necessarily resonate, and they tend to churn much faster. So with those key benefits of Ruby in mind, what happened was very quickly, attorneys became, without even trying, without marketing to them, attorneys became 40%. Solo and small firm attorneys became our largest customer segment by far. And it really wasn't until we actually looked at who the customers are and put what industry they're in, that we went, oh, wow. And so once we discovered that, then we're like, great, then how do we market to them? But by the time we were, well established and able to do a survey to like, well, who are these customers? Let's stop thinking of them as one big thing, the small business customer, and let's break it down. So for us, our sweet spot was anywhere from 2 to 10 employees. The super small business, once you're over 10 employees, perhaps our value wasn't as strong. We weren't able to do as much, or perhaps a full-time assistant could answer the phone and do other things at the same time. But remarkably, our small business customers were in business for quite a while. There was just something about our product offering that spoke to businesses that knew they needed this. So attorneys was our top segment. Financial professionals was number 2. And that makes a little bit of sense, although confidentiality is key. Sensitive data, the trust that they had to have in us to have access to their customers. But at the end of the day, financial professionals made their living, estate planners and financial planners, is they wanted their clients to feel like VIPs and feel very special. And that we could do that even not being in their office, but being able to do that and never miss a call was really important to them. So those are some of the things that we learned about our customers. The construction industry was really interesting. So different than attorneys and financial professionals, completely different needs, and actually came to us later once we learned more about them and what drove them and what they cared about. And even speaking in their language was a key driver of building that customer segment. So our customers were everywhere. It was also a very interesting insight to find that larger cities, proportionally more than their geographic average, used Ruby. I think that was a little bit of an economics situation where the price of real estate, the price of a full-time employee was much higher in the larger cities. There's a little bit of we had a lot of East Coast customers. There was a little bit of a West Coast friendly that was hard to find on the East Coast, we were told. But there were different needs and different attitudes across geographic regions as well for us. So takeaway number 2, as you think about, and before our session today, Caroline brought up that some of you have a enterprise customer, target customer, and that they may not have the emotional drivers and real insights that either the the consumer or the small business customer that's really driven by the owner. So in a sense is a consumer too. But I actually feel like every business has those emotional needs that need to get taken care of, that drive a decision. So I'm sure all of you have done your key benefits, but really thinking about like, who really cares about that? And in your target customer market, who specifically are the ones that they are valuable to and why? And so if you are targeting a enterprise customer, where in that enterprise and what department are your key benefits applying to and why? So if you're struggling at all for this, I would invite you to come back to what drew you to this market. I'm guessing many of you were in the industry you served before and perhaps found you had some frustrations about why, how it could be done better. And that perhaps drove you to launch what you're doing today. So if you're looking for real understanding of the value, you can, look inward to yourself to ask yourself, but take the time to do it. All right. So how do you get to know your customers? This is one of those questions that, I had the privilege at Ruby to get to talk to our customers every day. We were their receptionists. We knew more about their lives sometimes than, their other colleagues. We knew when babies were being born. We knew when there were, family battles even, we got the calls. But over time, we really understood that our customers are not businesses. They are people, and that it was very important for us to get to know them. So, but that is not to say that we still don't segment them. So going back to, we'll use Ruby as an example. Our customer market was the solo and small business practice or firm of all sorts. But within that market, we had very specific targeted customers. In our case, they were industries. So legal became our largest vertical strategy. And not only did we need to understand why they were using Ruby, what drew them, and those became some of our key message. But also, what did they care about beyond Ruby? And how do you win loyalty and how do you win credibility? And that entailed speaking in their language. So for example, attorneys don't have customers, they have clients. Construction, I mentioned construction became a larger industry for us. They don't have customers either, they have jobs. So their customers were called jobs in general. But even being able to speak in their language, to get to know them, drove both our product as well as our marketing. So intake forms were the same thing as if a different kind of business asked us to take messages and ask 5 questions. Essentially, an intake form that's what attorneys call that. So we had very specific messaging for attorneys. They cared about growing their practice. For them, and even within the legal segment, different kinds of attorneys. A small business attorney like Lindy is not the same as a accident and injury lawyer who has commercials run once a month and needs to make sure that they get that phone call. Again, this is one of our vertical strategies. We developed key messages for them. We segmented them further. And then we also identified how to gain credibility through them. So attorneys were great because they talked to each other on the phone all the time. So they were referring each other. But we knew if we could get in with bar associations and other well-respected associations that gained credibility for us. So for us, bar associations we had agreements with almost every bar association, state bar in the country to work with Ruby. All right, so next up we have construction. Talked about them just as a contrast to attorneys. What they were out and about, they were busy, they didn't want to miss calls, they really didn't like losing to their competition, which was a really fun insight to gain after we talked to them at length. So our messaging was a little more blunt. At one point, we even sent out a mailer, which seems really archaic, but guess what? People in construction, they get their mail because there's liens and there's all kinds of things that show up. They have to get their mail. And so, the postcards are like, hey, while you were out, you lost a customer to, I called the other guy, so you can have a receptionist in 15 minutes, give us a call kind of thing. So it was really about freeing you up, being quick, making it easy, and making sure you won every single solitary job you could. We also gained, so then it was like really understanding what their key messaging was, which features and benefits they cared about, and then who to align ourselves with. So that is construction. Finance, the big thing with finance is trust. Trust and that VIP experience. So most financial planners, they're clients and they're not customers. Those are clients. They're not jobs either. Their clients' net worth were in the millions of dollars, and they probably cultivated those relationships over years. So how we treated their clients was very important to make them feel special. So we had certain features that, for example, we were able to integrate with our customers' client base, and we could mark certain clients VIPs, and we would already have the information in. And when they called from their own caller ID, we already were able to greet them personably and make them feel very important and special. And so that was a feature that our financial professionals really got value out of. And then finally, real estate, some similarities with all of those, but real estate agents, brokers on the go, wanted information given. They wanted to be able to make sure we could give information out that was accurate and up to date and help win them new clients as well. So those are just a few of our industries. Those were our top 4. 2 of them came naturally to us, and 2 of them the construction and real estate, we knew we wanted to go after them because they would seek us out, but they churned, they canceled their service faster than the other industries. So those were 2 industries that we really took time to really understand so that we could continue to expand into that industry and give them what they wanted. In the case of real estate, when we launched, we were a business service, so we were Monday through Friday, and getting into the real estate business actually prompted us to expand to the weekends as well. So that's a little bit about understanding the customers, and from a small business perspective, understanding their needs. And as we go further, even speaking in their customers' language. So as you think about your customers segment, what do you know about them, and what are the ways that you can speak in their language that gain trust and credibility? All right, so shared a little bit about customers and who they were and what they do for business and how they get their business and who their customers or clients are. But as we grew and delved further and invested further in our technology and many more millions of dollars into our marketing, getting deeper became very, very important. So we started doing surveys regularly, and we didn't just survey them about Ruby and how they liked our service and what features or benefits would they like to see us have, but really understanding who they were. And we learned that they were much older than we thought. Many of them, probably the attorneys skewing this, had advanced degrees or education, and in most of them preferred to go by the term owner rather than president or CEO, and which was a little different than we might have thought as well. I think we skewed slightly higher than the national average on business ownership. Female, proportionally, we had more female. So even though we had more male clients, we actually appealed on percentages to female business owners. But we also interviewed them and surveyed them repeatedly, regularly, different groups at different times, on how they use Ruby and on a daily basis, not just which features they use, and some assumptions we had made that that we were really targeting to be a customer's primary receptionist. That was true for most customers, but we learned that there was a large segment that used us as backup. So some of the features we developed worked really well for customers to be able to allow us to only use us when they couldn't themselves help. So we developed some integrated call forwarding features into our own app that allowed our customers to turn us off and on as needed and as backup. And we also learned, and this is, again, starting in 2003, everybody had a desk phone. I know that seems crazy, but landlines were a thing. We all had them. But by the time we did this first survey, probably 10 years ago, 31%, which was a pretty large percentage at the time for a business to have a landline. We realized that as much as we had invested in the app, only 10%, 11% were using our app. So that was important. But what we weren't wrong in is that what our customers cared about was they wanted to take good care of their customers and they wanted to grow their business. And that was an assumption that was made day one and turned out to be true. So again, we'll just take just a brief pause. Hopefully me sharing my story, which is what I'm generally doing rather than necessarily teaching. But hopefully as you're hearing this, you're thinking about your own business and thinking about what do you know about your customers. So you can list characteristics you may know intuitively or factually. And we're going to use this in the homework or the breakout session and the homework a little bit later. So just something to tuck away and think about later. All right. Customer personas. This is where we're going deeper. And Lindy, I hope you don't mind, but I loved your intro. You as an attorney were a target market of Rubies. And we know you're a business attorney, but I didn't know you were a mom. And I didn't know why you got into what you're doing. And I loved what you said about what you truly care about, using the mechanisms of capitalism to, be a force for change and in a positive way, and wanting to help entrepreneurs and startup entrepreneurs achieve that goal. So you are the perfect example of sharing, of going deeper with the customer persona by what you just shared. I just learned a little bit about what you cared about. And had you been invited by us to attend one of our 20-minute video interviews with you, we would have asked those kinds of questions and hopefully gotten that out of you. But a model that was shared with me by a marketing consultant kind of put this quadrant out here. Many of you have probably seen it. I know it's new to me, like in 8-year, 12 of business, but that we're really driven by these 4 things. We're thinking about the future and we're thinking about now, and we have positive and negative drive. So our wants and needs are our immediate positive things that we want, but we're, what are we frustrated by what is in the present that's standing in our way. That's the negatives in the presence. And then we look to the future, and that's where fears come in. What do we fear could happen? Will we lose everything if we don't grow our business? And the aspirations. Why did we get into this in the first place? Sometimes I feel like the fears overtake the aspirations, and we end up going, what are we doing here? But this quadrant is a sort of a model that can help you figure out your customer persona. So at Ruby, we had a wonderful product team. We were in the middle of a full-on revamp of our customer-facing technology, and we went on a deeper exploration to explore our customers and really understand our customer personas. And they came up with several. The two here today, I know that the type is very, very small. Hopefully you can at least read the headings, which are the important part of this. And when these were first presented to me, I actually didn't believe them. Being a small business owner myself, starting Ruby, like for our first 5 years, I was the epitome of our client. So I felt like my emotions, my fears, aspirations, wants and needs and frustrations had to be all of our small businesses. And the word cautious is nobody's ever described me as cautious. So I'm like, when I first saw this persona, I was like, no, this is wrong. You must have talked to one random person, and they were like, no, we talked to literally dozens. And this was a, amalgamation of a very distinct customer persona. And this was the caring, cautious Carol who really wanted to make sure everything was taken care of, and wanted to not just grow their business, but do it very responsibly and maintain relationships. And they were the introverted entrepreneur, which I had no idea existed. But this is where getting out of the assumption and getting out of the guessing and going after and getting real data, this is where, sometimes you're surprised, and you have to be open to what you learn, even if it makes no sense. So this person drinks tea, and and they drink Smith tea, which I actually like now, but back in the day I was like, tea, coffee, entrepreneurs drink coffee, that's who they are. But as you'll notice, they're on this customer persona, there are things about their business, but a lot of what is written here is who they are as a person. And again, I really think that the enterprise customer, even though it is not individuals, I still think that at the end of the day, those that are making the decisions and those that are driving themselves to take a meeting with you, they have those same fears, frustrations, aspirations, and goals. As someone mentioned, it was a senior living center, just the word senior living center, thinks in my mind all kinds of fears, frustrations, aspirations, and goals popped in my head about what it must be like to run a senior living center, and what it must take to get the job done. Because we're going to do a little bit of a customer persona exercise in the breakout session, and I want to make sure that everybody here can get something out of it, no matter who their customer segment is. But by taking time to really understand the customer, and beyond who they are as they interact with your own company, you can not only develop your marketing message, you can tailor who you market to more successfully, and you can develop your product very specifically to make sure, and even prioritize your product development timeline to really address the most important pain points, aspirations, and fears. And that's where that original statement of your product and service drives who your customers are, which is true. That is the end result. But over time, your customer can also drive your product and service. So this particular is Cautious Carol, and then we have Dependable Danny, and both of these personas, frankly, completely surprised me. I belong to a couple of entrepreneur groups, and they're the reckless optimists. They're the unpredictably not totally reliable dreamers, and but that apparently turned out not to be who our primary customers were. So this particular persona goes through again the goals of Dependable Danny in their business, but also what they needed and expected from a service. All right, I think we're doing well on time. I'm going to just briefly talk about the breakout session to make sure everybody understands what we're doing, and briefly the homework. And then I think we have a few minutes. If there's any questions in the chat, I can tackle them. So today, because you have had no time to absorb any of this and go do your own research, today's breakout session is just an exercise of taking a customer segment. I'm assuming most of you have more than one customer segment, and if you don't, I challenge you to take that one customer segment and try to break it further into a more specific customer segment, and do your best to fill out this form describing who this person is that is either the customer themselves or the primary buyer, and the role that they have in the organization that you're selling to, and describe who they are, why are they in that industry, what are their interests and behaviors, and then very specifically the quadrant of the fears, aspirations, frustrations, and wants and needs. Hopefully this form is self-explanatory, but the key here is you can take a guess today. That's the best you can do. It's really about getting your mind thinking about what you do need to go learn and what you don't know about your target customer. And then over the homework, I challenge you to take that customer persona and really craft some messaging in the form of understanding their the fears and aspirations. So for example, for Ruby, a customer fear was missing out on new business. So the marketing message was, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So identify a fear of your customer segment, come up with a marketing message or a brand promise message, or even a product benefit. Same thing with a customer aspiration. Many of our customers wanted to become larger and become a very successful customer. So grow your business with Ruby was our message. The frustration of being a small business owner. People had to wear many hats and they never felt they could be at the same place at the same time. So Ruby's got your back was our message. And then they really wanted, what they really cared about was they wanted to ensure they were taking care of their customers. So our message was wow your colors with Ruby. So I invite you to do that as your homework. And if you want to take it a step further, I'm really thinking about the language that should be, oh, I'm missing that piece. Sorry about that. There's a second page. I'll make sure you get it. So it's optional. It's extra credit. Is to take these messages and then put them in the language of your customer, ensuring that that you're speaking with the words that they use. I'll just one example of a mistake we made at Ruby in the investment world and in marketing world. The small business customers were called SMBs. No small business referred to themselves as an SMB. And ultimately, the word SMB or the acronym SMB started ending up in our marketing message and on our website. And we referred, in public to our customers as SMBs, like and that was a huge mistake. That was not a word that you would use to market to a small business customer. So you might use your own lingo internally, but how you want to make sure you're speaking in your customer language when you're coming up with your product messaging. Okay. I left 4 minutes for questions before we go into breakout sessions. I'm going to pop out of,
Yeah, great job, Jill. A lot of awesome information. There's two questions I'll combine into one. They're both related to TAM, the total available market.
Okay.
And they are, what resources did you use to develop your TAM? And secondly, at what point did you really confidently feel like, I know this is my total available market?
Yeah, there actually is free information out there with SIC codes. And it's been a while since I've Googled the exact information, but the US government has a website with actual numbers that are free that you can search by SIC code. The other thing I would do is I would go online and pretend to buy mailing lists. So I would segment, I'm like, oh, I want solo attorneys in the state of Texas. Like I was gonna, and then I would get to where it would purchase and be like, oh, we have 4,000 records for you. And so I'm like, okay, that's how many solo small firm attorneys are in tech. I was scrappy. Like I'm hoping,
Awesome.
many of you need those kind of scrappy tools.
And then at what point did you, like, how long after you started, did you feel like confidently you and your team knew this was your market, your total available market?
Well, that's a good question because it was huge. It was so much larger than we could ever tackle. But
I'm sure it
yeah.
took some time.
It did. It really took years. And it was more that there was just certain segments that turned out to be, not good for us.
Right. Got it. Okay. And Brennan, we have time for your question, and then we'll go into breakouts.
Thank you. Yeah, my question is, when you were first developing this product and you first rolled it out, how did you determine, kind of what your minimum viable product was? And as you were growing your company, how did you identify, what new features to add?
Yeah.
And when to add them?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. 2 minutes to answer that question. Ironically, our minimum viable product was a little bit more robust on the customer side, but on our side, we had to just remember everything. So, so we were able to do the job as with only 4 of us, almost by just filling out a form and using archaic technology to patch it together. So our MVP, just trying to think about, like, we didn't have the connection to our customers caller database. We didn't have a connection to their phone, but we were able to get calls to them and answer questions. And our MVP actually didn't change from a customer perspective. It just changed as we grew and had more employees. We had to really work the technology on the back end to make sure that we were able to still be personable, if that makes sense. And what was the second part of the question?
As you were trying to scale your company, you probably identified, this could be a good feature. And how did you vet if that was something that you should spend time developing? And the order in which to kind of roll those out?
Yes, it was actually a constant battle. And we prioritized them at all times. And we generally had annual meetings, of which we did big picture planning. So we followed the Rockefeller habits, strategic pyramid. So we had our big rocks, our 3 to 5 year goals, and we did lots of SWOT analysis to determine at the end of the day, and some voting and some just lots and lots of going back and forth about what then was the most important thing. And that determined our product roadmap. And it was based on customer data, but it was also, marketing telling us what they needed and the reasons our customers canceled. We actually use a lot of churn data, tried to really interview customers that left us to understand what it would take to win them back. But yeah, we battled with appointment scheduling, integrating that versus integrating into contacts. And it was some features came out with much less work. So sometimes even if they weren't the most important thing, they were easier to get done and they helped a little bit. So, but at the end of the day, it was my call about what we wanted to do.
Thanks for the question. And Jill, before we put everybody in breakouts, can you remind everybody, because I don't know if we mentioned this, because many of us who've started companies, you know, got loans or used
Mhm.
retirement funds or had to beg, borrow, steal, not steal.
Yeah.
Can you let everybody know, because you built such a successful company and have had such great feedback on that growth. How much money of your own money did you start it with?
$17,000. It was my entire IRA, my 401k. That was all I had in retirement as a receptionist myself. And then I did write a business plan and did secure an SBA loan, unsecured by anything other than the assets of the business, which was not normal at the time. And that was $75,000. And so that is,
That's amazing.
yeah, it's a
I think
lot.
that deserves a round of applause. And thank you for your amazing talk. Great job. Okay, I'm going to open the breakout rooms, and then Jill, I'll put you in one, or actually you can pick whichever one you want, and then you can hop around if you want. So 17 minutes. The cohort facilitators have the homework. My cohort number 2, because Devon is not here and someone needs to remain in the main session, I'm remaining here. Jarek has wonderfully, gracefully agreed to step up and facilitate. So thank you, Jarek, for doing that. And then 17 minutes, I'll give the 120-second warning to come back, but have a good time talking customer personas. I'm opening all the rooms now.
My goodness, how do I jump?
So if you scroll to the bottom of the list, I mean, it moves, it jumps as people go, but you could join any of the numbered rooms.
Okay.
Are you seeing that, Jill?
Oh, I see. Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
I'm not seeing anything.
Lizzie, was that you?
Yeah, nothing's coming up to me to join the room.
You're a little, I couldn't hear the audio there. Could you repeat that?
Nothing is coming up on my screen to join a room.
Oh, okay. So you're not seeing the little breakout room.
Correct.
Okay, let me see if I can.
Carolyn, I'm not seeing it either. I'm like, should I be looking for
Yeah.
something?
I wonder if it popped up like behind your screen, or
No.
Paula, you're not seeing it either.
Mm. Yeah, I just looked behind my screen.
Same with me.
Oh, this is weird. And I'm terrible at this stuff, you guys. So let me see what I can do here.
Okay, let's see.
Oh, wait, I see. It's the breakout room icon on the bottom of your screen. And then
Okay.
you go ahead and it pulls things up.
Thank you, Lizzie. Yeah, I guess I didn't know it didn't pop up for you. So you have to hit the little breakout room icon at the bottom. Are you guys seeing that now?
I see it now. Okay, got
Thank
it.
you.
I didn't see that before.
Sorry about that. Thanks for the clarification.
Excuse me, Carolyn, could you confirm which room I'm in? I'm a little confused because I started with Sierra
Mhm.
and I believe I'm with Carolyn. I don't know
Oh,
though.
that
the
would be
number.
that would be my room. Let me see. I'm looking you up in here. We have you in room Yvonne. What's your last name? Yvonne.
Leach.
Okay, you're in room 5 with Lindy.
Ah, thank you. Bye.
Yes, have fun.
Thanks.
How about others who are hanging behind? We've got Gregory and then the rest. Oh, Gregory's in. Okay, the rest are the pilots. I'm going to stop the recording. Gregory, did you need a hand?